Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is on March, late afternoon for again with the business from Professor PG. Hello, Marty. Please give me a follow. We appreciate you coming through there, sir. Look like UK politics, absolute popular. Thank you for everyone that watched and come through and support the show. Really means a lot. UK politics. We've got May the 6th elect coming up. Are you guys going to be voting? We are sponsored by O2 providers, O2 Network, O2 Mobile Phones, O2 Broadband, and BT. Right, O2 Mobile Phones devices are the best device out there at the moment in the market, UK market, best for coverage, network coverage all over the UK. Also, proudly sponsored by BSS Alarms. Very expert and pragmatic work carried out. All areas covered include central station monitoring provided, all work done according to insurance requirements. This is a friend of mine's company. He's carried out works in Abbey Step Up House in Hertfordshire from the bar. He carried out excellent works in Essex, such as the Casbah Restaurant and many more big businesses. Please call Tarek Khan 07908 07908 216 142 07908 216 142 216 Installation and maintenance of intruder alarms, fire alarms, CCTV, all works guaranteed and certified to SSARB standards with a 24-hour call-out service. You can provide CCTV for pubs, clubs, restaurants, or new business setups for your business. Mention Professor John for special discounts to secure your home, secure your business, your safety, and quality in your business are paramount. Think safety, think first. Secure your equity. Proclamation of the government like and that is CCTV intruder and CCTV camera alarm systems around your perimeter of your safety paramount, your family's safety paramount, so it's very well recommended to do so. Anyone had their vaccination, anyone objecting to having vaccination? Because half of the adults receive the first vaccine dose in the UK. Half of the adults receive the first vaccine dose. I mean, there's a lot of things where people don't have vaccination, and I don't have it, I might get blood clot, this, that, and the other one. But what chance of people dying having it, people dying not having it, and with the white five or 10 months. The Met Police say numbers during Saturday anti-lockdown protests in London are greater than expected. Thousands, I believe, which will take part of demonstrations, far more than my crowd predicted to attend during the ban. Although the Metropolitan Police does not give formal estimates of numbers. Deputy Assistant Commissioner Lawrence Taylor says gathering outside the home is illegal under coronavirus regulations. No protest of the size can be regarded as safe to go ahead, but he stressed the intention is always to balance right to protest public health requirements. I mean, if you go protesting like a terrorist and you're a backpacker, really, you're going into the middle of the COVID climate, taking so many risks. He stressed the intention is always to balance right to protest public health requirements. There has been some risk. Police are currently standing back and watching how events develop. Massive arrests on a possible could take a big hostage to make one arrest. Another tactic, containment, or objective cannot be developed because if afraid the risk of COVID transmission. Labour calls for comprehensive quarantine project in case of rise in Europe. Labour has called a surge in coronavirus infections in parts of Europe really worrying and has called for introduction of a comprehensive hotel quarantine system without further delay. people arrived in the UK. Shadow Home Secretary Nick Thomas said UK's priority has to protect the progress by vaccine. Hello there, Maguma Hamid Saturday. Of course, we want international travel to resume, but safety has to come first. He said it was too early to say how travel advice might change in 17th of May. Have you had your vaccination yet, Maguma? And we have to begin by the science, not arbitrary dates. I mean, like I was saying about this protest, I don't know what you make of the protest. They're like terrorists, the backpackers on, aren't they? They're going into the war zone of COVID transmission. They're like catch COVID and spread it around the UK. So soldiers and people, anyone listening to that, think about going to protest. We all want to get back to some form of normality. Why join the street and cause conflict with COVID? Workers take risk of us. 100 people have been marched past parts of Westminster and London as part of the day anti-lockdown protest. Home Office said it was still illegal for people to attend demonstrations under the company's controls. The Metropolitan Police said several arrests have been made. A familiar day in unfamiliar circumstances. Gareth Griffiths, beach and sports in Wales. Wales rugby fans are set for another potential grand slam Saturday, but it'll be unlikely. Scotland hosted Italy and England travel to Dublin as the Six Nations advertised for the main course. Paris, driving France unbeaten, Wales still able to win the tournament. And win concludes Wales' fifth grand slam on the Six Nations era, but due to the COVID-19, this will be the first for our fans at game on pubs and rugby clubs across Wales. Whether events will be resolved on Saturday remains to be seen. Scotland is still to travel to Paris on 26th of March, 6 days after anticipated end of the tournament. The original game in February was suddenly called off because of COVID-19 cases in the France camp, which potentially spoiled the concept of everything being finalised on the last day. I mean, all them rugby supporters that used to go to the pub to watch sport no longer going to be watched in the pub. That's what people get upset about. So clearly. Anyway, airline trade decreased based reopening for travel. Airlines in UK trade body of UK based airlines said it was too early to predict what the COVID situation in Europe or globally would look like in December time. The trade body said it focused between now and then working with government on a framework for travel that is robust and workable and can stand testing time. They've always said any reopening must be risk-based, but also led by an overwide assumption that as the vaccine rollout accelerates both here and abroad, the phase of easing of restrictions is achieved. We know that universal restriction free travel is unlikely for set in May, but under activities based on risk, international travel can legally restart and be built up with minimal restrictions. Astra's interest rises when travel restrictions. It is vital that plans to restart international travel in the UK take on board the interest of passengers. The editor of the consumer organisation which travel said, Rory Boland said it was important that rules and requirements remain consistent, as changes that will lead travelers to putting the bill against further risk undermining consumers' confidence in booking travel. He said this must make safety important test vaccine passports and reassurance about refunds and travel is disruptive to top employment. So he's therefore commenting after a warning from health experts that some holidays overseas are extremely likely to be the risk of travel when coronavirus is back in the UK. Bowen said the government has made it clear that all major decisions are reopening travel based on the health situation before, meaning travel continues to be restricted and will change in the line of scientific advice. It remains a quiet risk to booking travel companies. The anti-protesters in London Some protests have been detained by police in hot part London during anti-lockdown demonstrations under England's current lockdown regulations. Protests are not listed as weak or excuses for leaving home. A small number of protesters opposed to the lockdown gathered ahead of the planned march of Westminster. Scotland Yard said London remains in a health crisis and urged people to stay at home. The demonstration came after more than 60 MPs appeared to go to the Home Secretary calling for a change of COVID-19 legislation and are protesting to happen to the lockdown. The letter, organised by campaign groups limiting and big brothers like yourselves, their itching to fight protesters. Care worker struck off after lockdown fire attack. Care worker has been struck off in jail for assault of three police officers who were called to a party to oppose the violence on them. Harris Williams, 32, of Canada, banished to an egg, admitted to a charge of assault and known to have been doing nothing. They then moved the magistrate to jail her for a year as she was sacked by an employer. Traffic, social care, Wales, fitness, practice, now struggle. The president of the International Olympic, Thomas Bates, said banning international bans in Tokyo Olympic and Paralympics is a great sacrifice for everybody. We reported earlier that the games due to start in July will not be able to perform spectators. That said, we share the disappointment of all Edie Jackson Olympic fans from around the world, and of course the families and friends of the athletes who are planning to come to the game. For this, I'm truly sorry. Everything that respect critical safety first. I know that our Japanese partner, friends, did not really is everything alright, mate? We stand together shoulder to shoulder and side of Japanese partners and friends without any kind of reservation. Made Olympic and Paralympic Games in Tokyo 2020 great success. So strange that all these like even like festivals and not going to go ahead with the COVID business. To put too many people's lives at risk. All the football, no spectators, boxing events, and the Joshua Titan period, none of them spectators. Maybe a few local. I don't think they're open up to foreign spectators. Johnson House vaccine, I'll wait till anyone had a vaccine. I've got one due on the 30th September vaccine. After all 17 hours from the announcement, after the Academy and the sea, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has briefly distracted I've got ultimately von der Leyen, President to hold UK export capacity AstraZeneca vaccine. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen has threatened to hold export of AstraZeneca vaccine if the bloc will not proceed with the promise deliveries first. We have the option of banning export at the nation to AstraZeneca if you fulfill your contract in Europe first before start delivering other countries. Ms von der Leyen told Germany Funky Group. The European Commission President said AstraZeneca had delivered only 30% of 90 million vaccine doses. He had promised for the first quarter of the year. The EU is struggling to accelerate its vaccination program with a third wave of cases bearing down on many parts of the continent. Ms von der Leyen said the EU's contract to AstraZeneca with the AstraZeneca state vaccine destined for the bloc would be introduced in both EU and UK countries, but will have received anything on the Christmas. I can explain to European citizens why we're exporting millions of vaccine doses to countries as are producing vaccines themselves and are sending us anything back themselves. Next segment, a short break after the right. Thank you all. COVID summer holidays abroad unlikely to warn the government advisor. Summer holidays overseas are extremely unlikely because of the risk of travellers bringing coronavirus variant back into the UK. Hello, Farshid. How you doing, buddy? Scientists and the government advisory body has shared the UK faces a real risk if people travel abroad. Dr. Mike statistics said foreign holidays are currently not allowed and returning travellers and quarantine. Transport Secretary Grant Shab said it's too early to tell when holidays abroad would be allowed. Under the current roadmap for easing restrictions in early stage, people who travel abroad would be 17th of May. People can currently travel abroad for a limited number of reasons, such as education and work, but everyone who does have it to do when they get to actually travel. Safety that may be for the country. Oh, thank you. Nice to, oh, yes, you're asking around everybody. How is the weather in Iran? I bet it's getting warm now. The government task force will report to Prime Minister on the 12th of April detailing when and how international travel can resume. Have you had your vaccination yet? Health Secretary Matt Hancock said on Saturday morning half of all adults in the UK are now receiving a coronavirus vaccine. Friday was also recorded record-breaking day of the job, Hancock said. Dr. Tisdale, a member of the government's scientific pandemic influenza group, Motley, which being to say said there was a danger in holidaymakers bringing back variants. Like one of those emerged in South Africa were less susceptible to vaccines. Dr. Tilsley told BBC Radio 4 Today programme, which I think that international travel this summer is for average holidaymakers, sadly, I think, extremely unlikely. I think we are running a real risk if we do start and have lots of people going overseas in July, for instance, and August because of the potential for bringing more of these new variants back into the country. What is really dangerous if we do jeopardise our vaccination campaign by having these variants, which where the vaccines don't work as effectively, spreading more rapidly. Future vaccination campaigns might need to be considered to tackle future variants, but the longer we can push that down the road, the better, Dr. Tilsley has added. Professor Andrew Howard from SAGE said it was unlikely the government would want to encourage travel. European countries currently experience high levels of coronavirus infections. I suppose one of the more worrying things about this resurgence is that in some parts of Europe and South African variant is beginning to creep up to high levels. Quite, he told the Times Radio. He said its variant was a particular concern because vaccine effectiveness against it was quite low. Airlines UK, represents UK's registered carriers, said it was too early to say what the state of the COVID be in Europe and the rest of the world in 10 weeks' time. We've always said that any reopening must be risk-based, but also led by the overriding assumption that as the vaccination rollout accelerates both here and abroad, a phased easing on restrictions is achievable. Airlines UK said, we know that universal restriction-free travel is unlikely from the 17th of May, but under a tiered system based on risk, international travel can meaningfully restart and rebuild of minimal restrictions in time. Hello, hello, Roxanne. We've got a business analyst by Kathy Austin. February's announcement of the roadmap for easing restrictions in England was followed by a flow of reports from airlines and holiday companies. Future bookings had surged, particularly from July onwards. Although domestic operators reported strong demand for UK-based getaways, many people are clearly desperate to go abroad when it is allowed. Stricken travel and tourism firms desperately need their business. They see this summer as crucial. But although 17th May is at the calendar as the earliest possible date for international leisure trips to resume, this has never been guaranteed, nor do passengers yet know exactly what rules or system might be in place to enable travel to restart. All eyes will be on what the Global Travel Task Force reports on April the 12th. I'm short break, guys, and I'll be back here. Short 5 minutes break. That's right. Look at LBC, I'm still here. Show's still ticking. Show's still ticking. Just gonna hang on. What the latest news? Gavin's still here. Right.
Order. I call Secretary Frank up to make a statement.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. And with permission, I'd like to make a statement on the support that we're giving to the NHS and social care to help recover from the pandemic. The House on vaccine supply and the rollout, and set out facts, given some of the speculation that we've seen overnight. Let me set out absolutely straightforwardly. Throughout the vaccination programme, the pace of rollout has always been determined by the availability of supply. As I've said in this House many times, supply is the rate limiting factor. The process of manufacturing vaccines is complicated and subject to unpredictability. And because we get supplies out into the field so fast and run a highly new availability of vaccine, this has been true throughout. We make public commitments to the goals we can reach according to our best estimates of future supply. That supply goes up and down. We are currently, right now, in the middle of some bumper weeks of supply. We've now reached the milestone of 25 million vaccinations within the first 100 days of rollout, and we've therefore been able to open up invitations to all people aged 50 and above. And yesterday, for example, we delivered over 500 million vaccines, and we will do so again today. In April, supply is tighter than this month, and we have a huge number of second doses to deliver. During April, Madam Deputy Speaker, around 12 million people, including many colleagues in this House, will receive their second dose. These second doses cannot be delayed, as they have to be delivered within 12 weeks of the first dose. In the last week, we've had a batch of 1.7 million doses delayed because of the need to retest its stability. Events like this are to be expected in a manufacturing endeavour of this complexity, and this shows the rigour of our safety checks. And we have a delay in the scheduled arrival from the Serum Institute of India. Now, I want to put on the record my gratitude to the Serum Institute of India for the incredible work that they're doing producing vaccines, not just for us in the UK, but for the whole world. Their technology and their capability, which has been approved by the MHRA, is remarkable. The Serum Institute of India are producing 1 billion doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine this year. It truly is a partnership that we can be proud of. I also want to put on the record my thanks to both AstraZeneca and Pfizer, who've been remarkable partners in this historic endeavour. We have committed to targets on which it is vital to say that these targets to offer the vaccine to everyone aged 50 and over by the 15th of April and to all adults by the end of July. I can confirm that we are on track to meet both of these. I also want to clear up some rumours that have been circulating and give people reassurance. There will be no weeks in April with no first doses. There will be no cancelled appointments as a result of supply issues. Second doses will go ahead as planned. Most importantly, the vaccine data published yesterday show the life-saving impact of this vaccine. It's not just that the vaccines are safe, it's that they make you safe. You're much safer having had one. And shortly, the MHRA will be saying more on this matter, which they, of course, keep under constant review. Madam Deputy Speaker, I know the House will also want to hear some good news from Gibraltar. Throughout Throughout the crisis, we've provided Gibraltar with PPE, testing, and a sovereign guarantee for their COVID spending. We have also provided Gibraltar vaccines, as we have with all other British overseas territories. And I'm delighted to be able to tell the House that yesterday, Gibraltar became the first nation in the world to complete its entire adult vaccination program. I want to pay tribute to all Gibraltarians for their fortitude during this crisis, and the kind words of Westmisnter Abbey, who said yesterday, the United Kingdom has played a blinder on vaccinations, and we are among the beneficiaries in the British family of nations. I agree. The vaccination program has been a success thanks to a team spirit across the British family of nations. It hasn't always been easy. Of course, there are challenges thrown at us in what is the biggest civilian undertaking in history, and that affects every single one of us. The whole House pays tribute to those who helped to make it happen, including Emily Lawson and Kate Bingham, Maddie McLean and Ruth Todd, Nikki Finani, Professor Jonathan Van Tam, Sir Chris Whitty, Sir Patrick Balance, Wei Shen Lim, Sarah Gilbert, Andy Pollard, Pascal Sorio, by officials in the department, colleagues across this House, and so many others who've made this a success. With 25 million people vaccinated and a clear roadmap out of lockdown, we're taking careful steps out of this pandemic.
My son, you are having nightmares. From the past, hardships will follow, along with betrayal. But during your trial, you will grow stronger. You will fight for the...
Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, there are 7,218 people in hospital with COVID across the UK, down from a peak of almost 40,000 just 7 weeks ago. The rate of hospitalisations has halved in just the past 16 days. And thankfully, the rate at which people are dying has fallen by a third in the last week. As a result, I can tell the House that we are, from today, writing to all those clinically extremely vulnerable people to let them know that shielding will come to an end on the 31st of March. I want to thank all those who've shown such fortitude and all those who've done so much to look after the most vulnerable. The shielding programme truly has been Britain at its best, pulling together to help those most vulnerable. And Madam Deputy Speaker, I know that colleagues in the NHS and social care are beginning cautiously to look to the recovery ahead. I know everyone in this House is proud of the life-saving work we've seen in hospitals across the country. Yet we also know that our battles against COVID-19 have meant that there are things that we've not been able to do, like routine treatments and operations. And the challenges of COVID are still with us. We must continue to treat patients with the disease, bolster our vital mission of infection control, while also laying the groundwork for a recovery that gets us back to where we need to be. We back the NHS at every point in this pandemic so that they can treat patients, stay safe, and save lives. And I'm delighted to inform the House that we're backing them again today with a further £6.6 billion of funding for the first half of this coming financial year, in addition to the £3 billion committed at the spending review last November to help the NHS meet the additional costs of COVID, while critically starting the work on the elective recovery ahead. Due to the pandemic, the waiting list for elective treatment in January was almost 4.6 million, and 304,000 people are waiting more than a year for an operation or diagnostic. Before the pandemic, we reduced the number of 52-week waits, so people waiting more than a year, from 20,000 in 2010 to 1,600. And we were in fact on track to get that number to zero before the pandemic. This backlog of elective work is an inevitable consequence of the pandemic, and I know how NHS colleagues are as determined as I am to put it right. We're also putting £594 million towards safe hospital discharge. Over the last year, the NHS's existing discharge programme freed up over 6,000 beds, and with it, the valuable time of 11,000 NHS staff. We can be grateful that we're seeing so many people leave hospital and that our discharge programme has shown the way forward in ensuring people can get the very best of care outside of our hospitals, helping them off the wards and into the right settings with the right support at the right time. Our 500 million mental health recovery package will help tackle the challenges that the pandemic has wrought in access to mental health services. And I can also confirm that we'll be extending enhanced discharge arrangements for mental health patients, getting patients safely from hospital into healthy community settings, providing better care and freeing up thousands of beds. And this challenge of mental ill health is so important. We all need to keep looking out for each other and doing all we can to strengthen our mental health. Tackling mental ill health is a core objective of our NHS long-term plan. And this government is committed to seeing mental health treated on a par with physical health and deliver on the long-needed reforms that we've set out. Madam Deputy Speaker, I am equally committed to supporting the vital work of our colleagues in adult social care. Last Monday, we reopened care homes to visitors with a careful policy of a single regular visitor who will be tested and wear PPE. I know how important this is, and I know colleagues will be cheered by the stories we hear each day of more and more residents safely reunited with people that they love. It means everything to them. I can today announce a further 341 million to support adult social care with the costs of infection prevention, control and testing that will make sure visits are safe for everyone. This takes the total infection control fund and testing support to more than £1.6 billion, alongside the free PPE that care homes receive. Madam Deputy Speaker, the pandemic has tested our NHS and our social care system like never before. That they have risen to meet the challenges of the past year is down to the incredible dedication and hard work of colleagues. They have our thanks. We will deliver on our commitments. We will build 40 new hospitals. We will hire 50,000 more nurses. We will vaccinate this country ahead of almost all others. We will back our NHS and social care as we build back better for everyone. And I commend this statement to the House.
For the Shadow Secretary of State, Jonathan Ashton.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and as always, I thank the Secretary of State for the advanced sight of his statement. Now, our constituents will be worried and anxious and disappointed at the news on vaccination last night. It has been an unspeakably horrific year. We've got one of the worst death rates in the world. Our economy has taken a massive hit. Many key workers under the age of 50, like teachers and police officers who through the nature of their work are not at home, they are going out, they are more exposed to risk, have been hoping that vaccination for them was not far away. So we understand why there will be delays in supply. Of course we understand that, but this is not fantastic news, and nor frankly is it expected news. On Saturday, the government sources at least, were briefing the Daily Telegraph of a bumper boost that everyone over 40 would be offered their first vaccine by the Easter. Last week, the business secretary was hinting that all adults could be vaccinated by June, saying there's no reason why we can't be optimistic. On Monday, supported for vaccination. There was a similar invitation went out from Berry CCG as well. So we are grateful for his update today, but it will be a surprise to many. He didn't mention Moderna supplies today. I understand that supplies from Moderna will start in April. Is there any prospect that if Moderna supplies come on stream, that new appointments can be offered in light of this? Now, about 11 million people received their first dose between January and February. I listened carefully to what he said. Can he just clarify for the House and for our constituents, is he offering them an absolute guarantee that all of those will get their second dose within the 12 weeks throughout April? Our constituents will be keen to just get that absolutely clarified. Now, the vaccination programme will need to ramp up to about 3.5 million doses a week from May to ensure that everyone under 50 is vaccinated by July. Is he confident that these supply issues will be fixed by May? And is there any prospect of doing more than 3.5 million jabs a week from May? So, because, for example, we heard today from Adam Finn of the JCVI that infection rates may rise as a result of the delays. Does he anticipate that any of the stages in the roadmap easing out of lockdown, when any of those dates will be pushed back, given that we are quite rightly judging that roadmap by data, not dates. Can I also, on behalf of the official opposition, Madam Deputy Speaker, take this opportunity to support the AstraZeneca vaccine? Now, of course, when people are worried and have concerns, those worries and concerns must be addressed and not dismissed. But this is a concern at the moment. And yesterday, for example, I was told that hundreds of people failed to show for appointments at the Excel Centre, and we think that's because of concerns and misinformation circulating online. And there are parts of the country where infection rates remain relatively high and vaccination rates relatively low. I see this in my own Leicester South constituency. So will we pull together a cross-party task force of community and local leaders to look at tackling these vaccine hesitancy issues? I offer again to work with us on that on a cross-party basis. Madam Deputy Speaker, children make up around 21% of the population. So that is a large segment of the population who will be lacking immunity. Obviously, research and trials are ongoing, but does he have a timeline for when he hopes to vaccinate children? Does he anticipate, for example, being able to vaccinate children this autumn, as Anthony Fauci in the US has suggested could well happen over there? Because even as vaccination rolls out, the virus continues to circulate, and new vaccine-evading variants could emerge, and we may need booster jabs in the autumn, and winter will be challenging. And so driving up vaccinations across the whole of the population is so important. Now, on these budget allocations that is announced for the next 6 months, finally, I welcome extra funding, of course. Can you guarantee that the NHS will continue to get additional funding after the 6 months, if needed, for COVID care? But as he references, people are waiting longer for treatment, over 300,000 people waiting over a year, risking a permanent disability or loss of livelihood. Thousands waiting too long for cancer treatment, risking loss of life. But we shouldn't have to choose between cancer care and COVID care. We're also facing a mental health epidemic as a consequence of this crisis. But crucially, Madam Deputy Speaker, when we entered this pandemic, because of years of underfunding, bed cuts and understaffing, we had growing waiting lists. Our INEs were in crisis. We were missing cancer targets. So can he tell us when he expects to bring down these waiting lists and meet the various cancer targets again, Madam Deputy Speaker? And finally, he didn't mention NHS pay today. He claps NHS workers, he claps nurses, but he's introducing a real terms pay cut by our NHS staff. Can he tell us whether he will implement any recommendations of the independent pay review body, and if they recommend an increase above 1%, can he assure us that the funding will be additional to what he has announced today? But in truth, Madam Deputy Speaker, if he really wants to value NHS.
Ladies and gents, thank you for being patient. Going live to walk with in Chelmsford. Older men grooming young children. It's horrific, isn't it? Horrendous that you hear these stories. Officers are investigating the incident. What, it's like a psychomotor state for men's getting this, mental health. The absorption that you must take in when you hear these stories is horrific. It's horrendous how many, males or females, elder. Police have issued a pill after a teenage girl was approached by a man who asked to walk with her. Essex police said the girl, aged 17, was walking along Forest Drive, Chelmsford, at around 10:40 a.m. yesterday, on March 19th, when she was approached by the man. He spoke to her, asking if he could walk with her. Officers said the teenager was rightly concerned by what happened. Police are now investigating the incident and appealing for anyone with information to come forward. An Essex police spokesperson said the young girl was rightly concerned by what had happened. Keeping everyone in our community safe, including women and girls, is a priority for Essex Police. We are continuing to investigate this incident and would urge anyone with information about this man may be to get in touch with the Essex Police. It's disgusting. The news is, grooming of young teenage girls is quite big, isn't it? Not just in Essex, big across the whole world. Absolutely shocking, absorbing information. how do you go about tackling these crimes? I mean, how do you go about parenting these adults? I mean, there's your kid at some stage going into this world of extraordinary, actually inhumane. There's been a song written for Eddie Jackson, 7, who died 1 year after being diagnosed with the deadliest childhood cancer. Again, another shocking, absorbing information. Eddie's family are such a beautiful family that I wanted to give something to them. A man from Essex has written a song dedicated to Eddie Jackson, 7, who died 14 months after being diagnosed with the deadliest childhood cancer. Eddie from Abbey was just 6 years old when she was diagnosed with an incredibly rare brain tumour known as a high-grade diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma (DIPG) in November 2019. Just 30 to 40 children are diagnosed each year, and the average survival prognosis is just 8 to 12 months. Eddie managed to undergo the intense targeted chemotherapy in the United States, but sadly she lost her cancer battle on Tuesday, January 26, 2021. Eddie was diagnosed with a tumour on a stem of the brain after her parents noticed she had a squint in her left eye and told doctors she had double vision. The brain tumour was discovered during an MRI scan at Harlow's Princess Alexandra's Hospital. Brave Eddie's story explanation. Eddie, including Shane Ewell, 37, also from Abbey, who wrote a song dedicated to her memory. Shane spent 2 nights writing Eddie's song called Forever 7 while juggling and fundraising of its own charity, Through the Fight, which is a charity for victims of violent crime and people with terminal and life-limiting illness. Forever 7 was performed by Abbey-based singer Lucia Closier, who wowed judges in The Voice in 2014. Although Shane and Eddie's family live in the same town, they did not know each other than Shane heard about Eddie's illness. He also touched by the family's tragic story that he wanted to help. Shane, who is not a support worker for adults with learning disabilities, said, Eddie's family are such a beautiful family that I wanted to give something to them. I know they have their memories of her, but I wanted to give something special that they can have. When I put the idea to Eddie's mum, Lewis, she loved it. Then, when the song came together, they were all in tears and were absolutely in love with the song. Eddie's family loved the song so much. Then they played it at a funeral. The family really loved the song, and they played the song at Eddie's funeral at her celebrations of life. There has been a really nice response for everyone about the song, Shane said. The song isn't something just remember Eddie by. Nobody can ever forget her, but it's just a nice thing for the family to be able to keep and help someone else going through DIPG. Shane and Eddie's family are hoping to raise awareness of DIPG and to raise money to help the DIPG charity, or to give her family another child who's currently battling the illness. He said, we're hoping someone will get help with the money raised in Eddie's memory. We hope it will help someone else struggle with the illness and be nice ending to something that's so tragic. Another child is going through the same fight as Eddie was. So we want a child to benefit from the money and help them and their family. It means a lot to me and to be involved in helping Shane. Shane had written the song, but needed somebody to perform it. Shane knew the perfect person. He got in contact with a 24-year-old The Voice star, Lucia Closier, who knew Eddie and her family. Shane said, I got Lucy involved to sing the song, and she had been amazing. She was actually Eddie's singing teacher, so it's fitting that it would be her singing the song. She had a personal connection to Eddie and her family, and the emotion really came off as when she sang the song. Lucy had been great, and I'm so grateful to have on board. She put her heart and soul into the song. Shane and Lucy worked with Rob from Manor Studio, Essex, to record Eddie's song. It's quite, it's quite heartfelt, isn't it? Someone's written a song of the tragic loss of their daughter. Absolutely. Shane said, I've got Lucy involved to sing the song. And she's been amazing. Actually, Eddie's singing teacher, so I was fitting and it would be her singing a song. The talented 24-year-old Lucy said, Eddie was shy at first when I first started teaching her and Find Your Feet theatre school in Waltham Abbey. But she soon came out of her shell and we were able to see just how much she loved the arts and how passionate she was about performing. Finding out Eddie was so upsetting was an incredible feeling, something I never thought I would have to feel. And I was just a teacher. Eddie's family and closest of friends were incredibly strong, as well as Eddie's during her fight. We all want her fight to continue. We all want Eddie's fight to continue in our memory. The DIPG is one of the most inhumane childhood cancers. It strips off the child of their normal abilities, but Eddie never stopped smiling, continuing to make not just her family, but the whole community become in awe of how strong she was. I knew it was something I had to. I was approached to help Eddie's song Forever 7 by my friend Shane, and I just knew it was something I had to do, Lucy said. I'm so proud to be part of the track. Also, just made it so special. We continue to raise awareness and fund the DRPG for charities and children with DRPG with the hopes that one day no child will ever have to go through such cruelty. Forever in our hearts, forever singing and dancing, and Forever 7. Shane launched a Just Giving page to help raise funds for Eddie's parents, who will donate the money to a DIP charity or another child currently fighting the illness. So far, the page has reached over 2K of its 1K target. You can donate to this giving page and get your own copy of the song. You can click on the things on this live. Thank you all for coming through and the artist supporting the show means an awful lot. Last segment, I'll go for walk off, guys. I really appreciate your support of the show. I've been losing momentum, like my energy to even want to sit here day in, day out to keep this going. There's no encouragement for the hard work to put in the office. More than a dozen electric vehicle charging points to be installed. Chancellor Stephen Bolton and Dan O'Hara with one of the EV chargers. The new common multi-storey car park in Hatfield Town Centre is the first location in the borough to have electric vehicle charging points installed by the council as it moves towards a zero-carbon future. For vehicle charging points provided power for eight electric vehicles will be available when the car park opens on Saturday, 20th of March. This is in Hatfield and Welland. A further 12 charging points providing 24 electric vehicles will be rolled out in car parks across the borough by the end of April, installed by the council's EV partner, Hertfordshire-based EV Charging. The 7 22 kW chargers will offer a range of 24 to 80 miles based as a one-off charge. As part of the scheme, the council will receive 1 tree for every charging unit that is installed. An additional 2 trees will be planted for every tonne of carbon that's subsequently saved each year. Give me 2 seconds, guys. 2 seconds. Got a few minutes left. I just want to charge something for a couple of minutes. Chancellor Stephen Bolton, Executive Member of Planning and Environment, said, this marks an important. Damn. Thank you for the follow. Their attraction. Law attraction. Thank you so much. Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you for the support. And please follow Proclamation News and Gathers. Appreciate you so much. I'm a great understander of law. I don't know what law you are studying, but please don't feel afraid to question some stuff I might know that you might want to know. What sort of law do you study? Criminal law? Family law? Quite clued out all kinds of law. Yes, Chancellor Bolton, Executive Member of Planning and Environment, said this marks an important milestone in the movie towards zero carbon emissions in the borough. However, to enable people to switch electric vehicles, we need to provide infrastructure to help residents make that change. therefore hope to secure further environment funding so we continue to expand our EV charging network in Welling Hatfield. Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Chancellor Fiona Thompson, Executive Member for Public Health, Governance and Climate Change, said switching to cleaner, greener transport options is essential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Installing electric charging points will support people to make low carbon mobility choices so that we can tackle climate change and improve air quality in our borough. It's quite phenomenal, isn't it? I mean, listen to David Attenborough. David Attenborough will say, how his outlook of life, saying the man is the destroyer of the world, using all their natural resources, industrialisation, pollution, carbon monoxide pollution by vehicles. But here you have it, electric charging points for electric vehicles, hoping to have the greenhouse effect by 2070, I think, having mainly electric cars by then and scooters. Dan O'Hara, COE and EB Charging said this month's installation of 16 new alpha and double and twin electric charging points will make EVs even more convenient for people living and travelling to Welling Hatfield. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Lord Tratton, for the support. I really appreciate you so much. Are you trained? You are a lawyer. Oh, great. You are actually a lawyer. That is nice to know. I need a lawyer. COVID anti-lockdown. I'm quite a good litigating officer for myself because, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I've got nothing to hide. And in a court scenario, I do know a lot about family law, criminal law. COVID anti-lockdown protests as MP call for law change. Anti-lockdown demonstrations are underway in central London as MPs urge the government to change the law to allow peaceful protests. Hundreds of people marched from Hyde Park to Westminster with some detained by police. Earlier, more than 60 MPs and peers wrote to the Home Secretary calling for laws to be changed. The Home Office said it was still illegal for people to attend protests under the current coronavirus rules. The Metropolitan Police warned of a significant policing operation throughout Sunday, with enforcement including fixed penalty notices and arrests. BBC correspondent Marina Spring reporting anti-lockdown protests said the atmosphere was animated and a number of people appeared to be angry about restrictions on peaceful protests. The anti-lockdown protest came after a vigil following the death of Sarah Everard in South London last week, resulting in arrest as police enforced COVID and public order laws. Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey blamed the scenes at the event on a lack of clarity, putting police in an impossible position. He said the original COVID restrictions had an exemption for peaceful protests because it was recognised that peaceful protest was a human right, a basic freedom. Liberal Democrats strongly objected when the COVID-19 restrictions in November sought to limit peaceful protests. Indeed, the courts have made it clear that the Human Rights Act still protects the right to peaceful protest, and we need the government to clarify the law. The letter of the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, organised by campaign groups Liberty and Big Brother Watch, urged her to issue guidance to police forces in facilitating protests. The initial organisers of the Sarah Everard vigil effectively lost a High Court battle to hold it lawfully the day before, resulting in its cancellation. But hundreds attended Clapham Common to gather around tributes left on a bandstand. The Met Police said the gathering became unlawful after people began delivering speeches to the crowd. The event also increased interest in plans to give officers more precise powers to restrict demonstrations in a new sweeping police crime sentence and court bills debated by MPs. No, we don't have a chance. You're absolutely right there. Sir Patrick Vallance, the UK's chief scientific advisor, told MPs earlier this month that protests elsewhere has not resulted in a spike of infections, that outdoor gatherings were safer than indoors, though not risk-free. He said, in a case that is difficult to see how things like large beach gatherings and so on can cause a spike. The same as the case in protests. March in New York, they did not really see any spikes after that. It is low risk, but on the other thing that can happen with outdoor events and so on is that when our indoor things are also open, you start to get people congregating indoors around that. That can increase risk, but outdoors itself is lower risk. So there you go. I think all these protesters are like terrorists, terrorists with backpacks. Saying you're risking other people's lives. It's selfish. Absolutely.